when you really have this attitude of serving, it comes back to you tenfold. People might say, well, Jim, you need to be humble. Oh, trust me. We didn't do this at the beginning to get accolades. But when you lay down at night and you know you've changed somebody's life, if that's locally, if that's nationally, if that's globally, that's a rewarding feeling.
My guest today is Jim Hardwick. Here's 3 facts that I think you should know about Jim. 1, he has been a vice president of sales for over 25 years. He's now a fractional or outsourced vice president of sales, helping businesses grow the revenue by building a foundation that is sustainable year over year. Not just one flash in the pan, but keep growing. 2, Jim's passion is that by embracing your servant's heart, you will elevate your business. Imagine that. And 3, Jim and his wife, Jody, head a dental team to Kenya every year. And in 2023, Jim will be taking a C-suite executives to Kenya on a retreat that will include an amazing safari experience along with sessions each day on how to embrace your servant's heart. That's Kenya 2023. Put that on the calendar. Jim Hardwick, welcome to Your Intended Message.
Thank you, George. It's great to be here. I guess the 25 years of VP sales just means how old I am. I'm dating myself quickly.
Well, and here I thought, okay, you must be at least 26.
Yeah, at least. I was born this way, and I'm going to go out this way with no hair. There we go.
Well, that keeps it easy. You don't waste all that money on barbers.
That's right. You're exactly right.
Jim, what is this concept about servant, the servant heart? What does that mean? And how is that sustainable in business?
Yeah, and it's just a great topic. And it's something that over the last few years, I've really, really embraced. And it's changed my life. I was in corporate America for 36 years. And in corporate America, it's a lot about taking. It's about winning. And it's about surviving. Now, I was blessed because I learned a lot. I gained a lot of knowledge. But what I have found, and especially now that I'm out on my own, everything I do is how can I elevate that business? How can I elevate and serve that person? And so instead of taking, it's now giving. Let me give you a quick story, George, which kind of pulls this all together. Because for years, my wife and I, we volunteered. We were young life leaders. We were at church. I mean, we did all those volunteer stuff. We gave money but I don't think I had the passion I have today. And so I read a book a few years ago called Halftime by Bob Buford. And it's what you do in the second half of your life to create a life of significance. And I'd spent the last 10 years really trying to figure out what that was in my life. And so a friend of ours was over at the house one day, and she says, I just got back from Kenya. You have to go. It's an amazing experience. You're going to love it. And look at these pictures. And she's just showing us all these pictures of these animals. And Jody and I are going, great. We had no desire to go to Africa. It wasn't on our bucket list. We could care less. And that sounds so obnoxious, but that's just the way it just wasn't something we wanted to do. And so fast forward, 2 years go by, and we're still kind of talking about this whole Kenya thing. And we decided, okay, we'll go. It's a one and done. We'll have a great time. We'll go get to see the big animals, take lots of pictures, and we're done. So in 2018, we went on safari. And we went to a place called Base Camp Explorers. And Base Camp Explorers sits right on the Masai Mara in Kenya, which is connected to the Serengeti. And that's where the 1.5 million wildebeest migrate every year. 90% of the employees there are Maasai. And because of our connections with some of the people within Base Camp, we got to go to a school and we got to go to a clinic. Now, let me get back. Jody's a dental hygienist. Okay, so that's going to be preface of what we do. So we were standing at a medical clinic, and a medical clinic is a cinder block building with 2 rooms. There's some tables and chairs and virtually no supplies. They have a PA there who will deliver babies, triage things. It's amazing. We wouldn't even walk into this type of building in America. Okay, let's put it in perspective. And so I'm standing there with our guide, Derek, a Maasai guide, and he's got his typical Maasai traditional clothes on, which are bright yellow and red, and the jewelry. And I look at Derek, and it's something, just an urge hit me. And I said, Derek, do you ever bring dental teams here? And Jody's standing right next to me. She knows what my mind's about. And he goes, no, they don't. They do bring some medical teams. But you know what? I've got a cavity right here. And at that instant, I just went, bam, I'm bringing a dental team back. And so that night, we get back to the tent, and I look at Jody and I said, Jody, will you come alongside me if we bring a dental team back? Okay, that's the pivotal question. If she says no, I'm out. I can't do the dental work. And so she goes, absolutely. And then we just started planning. 10 months later, George, we take a team back to Kenya. We took all our supplies. We didn't know what we didn't know. I have since learned, and this is what's interesting, I've since learned that 0.5% of people that have a vision for a nonprofit actually bring it to execution and do it. Fortunately, I didn't know that statistics before we started. Jody and I are both A-type personalities, and we took 8 people back in 10 months. And we set up in a tent. We had to take all our supplies, everything with us. We couldn't go to a dental clinic there. And we saw 191 patients our first trip, which was, in 4 days, amazing amount of work. We had a little boy who came in, 10 years old. He's in a worn out t-shirt, old shorts, and shoddy shoes. His whole side of his face is swollen. That's all infection. If we don't take care of that young boy and that infection goes to his brain or his heart, he won't see his 11th birthday. So we set him down, we take an x-ray of his teeth. And yes, we take a portable x-ray machine, and we take the x-ray of his teeth so we can see exactly which tooth and what needs to be done. The dentists go, they extract the tooth, and in a few days we gave him some medication, he will be on the mends to be healed. They don't have access to that dental care there. The access they have is 40 kilometers away. They don't typically have cars or any way to get there. And if they do go, it's $15 to clean a tooth because they don't have other teeth, or $75 for an extraction. Now, mind you, these people make $2.74 a day. That's about the price of it. That's less than a Starbucks coffee. So here we are, people who never wanted to go to Africa. Now it's something we do every year. We just got back this last February, and this time we took a little bit bigger team, but we saw 261 patients and did over 1,000 procedures. I tell all this story because of this, the way I embrace serving, the way we embrace giving, I'm extremely intentional in the way I live my life. That urge I had to ask that question to Derek, I immediately acted on it. 5 years earlier, I would have had that thing with Derek because it was a warm fuzzy at the time. And then I would have come back to the United States, life would have taken over, and I would have just been, I wish I would have taken a dental team to Kenya, and I would have never done it. But because of, as you get older, and I've had people pass away in my life and things, you just realize how precious life is and how short it becomes. That when you think of something, you need to be intentional about that. And that's where I parlay that into how I serve my clients, how I serve my friends, my families, my neighbors. I get people to say to me, Jim, I understand serving. Yeah, that's cool, but I can't go to Africa, right? You're doing this thing that's great. And they miss the point. The point is you need to serve your neighbor, your community, lend an ear to somebody that needs help. Bring in the garbage cans for your elderly neighbor when it's raining. That's called service. And it's not hard. It's serving your employees as a business owner. And if you have employees, when's the last time you sat down and listened to them and actually listened? Not just said, how's it going? And let me tell you about my vacation. But these people respect you. They look up to you. And when have you actively sat down and asked them, what are your goals and aspirations? And how can I help you reach those? How can I serve you to get there? It doesn't mean you're a weak leader. It doesn't mean you can't hold people accountable. What that means is you're there to help them reach their goals and aspirations. Because most people's goals and aspirations aren't, I want to come to work 8 hours every day and continue to come to work out every day, to work every day. Most people's goals and aspirations is, I want to put my kids through college. I want to pay off my house. I want to buy a house. I want to go on a nice vacation. I want to buy a new car. How do you know that? I mean, those are just examples of what it really, really means to serve and to be vulnerable. So I'll just stop right here because I know I've talked a lot, and see if you have any questions.
Jim, did you, and you mentioned the second half of your life, making that making it worthwhile. Did you go through a transition where suddenly you had this realization that, gee, I need to serve more. I haven't been doing enough of that. Was there a transition? And was it the Africa trip that did it, or was it something that happened earlier in your life?
I think it's a combination of two things. One is I started working for myself, and that is my sales, fractional VP of sales, where I'm a sales builder. I go in and I help companies that are in sales pain. I roll my sleeves up. I'm not a consultant and go in for 3 days and here's your book, good luck. People do that and they do a great job. But I go in and I'm involved with their organization 3-4 months up to a year. And so because I do that now, I don't have to monetize everything out of my business. So I'm constantly saying to people, I give away free advice. If you have sales pain, if you need a question about sales, call me. I'm here, call me. When I do that, George, I get calls. I talked to a CEO of a healthcare company. I was in healthcare for 36 years, and he knows software unbelievable. He's got a great program, but he's still trying to learn about healthcare. I spent an hour with the gentleman. I didn't bill him for my time, because if I can help him elevate his business, guess what? We all win, because that's going to come back to me someday. And that's the way I live my life. I don't worry about where my next client's going to come from. I just don't. So many people, oh my gosh, when am I my next business? Because it's amazing how they just come. And it's not a miracle, it comes through hard work. But when you put yourself out there and you're willing to help others and embrace them, it really makes a difference. And then I'll drop that on top of the attitude of when we get to Kenya and the impact, and you watch lives change because of the dental care that we provide and how rewarding that is. One of the things I want to share with you, and thing that I think people forget, and a key point I want to make is, when you really have this attitude of serving, it comes back to you tenfold. And I will get people might say, well, Jim, you need to be humble. Oh, trust me. We didn't do this at the beginning to get accolades. But when you lay down at night and you've changed somebody's life, if that's locally, if that's nationally, or if that's globally, that's a rewarding feeling. Because everything else in life, as far as I'm concerned, is just stuff. How much money can you get? How many cars can you own? How big can your house get? Who cares? How can you change that individual's life? How can you mentor to somebody and help them and lift them up and just give them 30 minutes of your time? Be there when they need help, or find somebody that's in trouble and need, and maybe you got an extra $20 you can give from the act of giving from monetary, or you just give the act of giving yourself. And that all makes a difference. So those two things, George, have come together just to embrace how it's really been changed my life. And I will say that my wife and I are on the same page, because she's let's call her a dental angel. She is amazing when it comes, she's a dental hygienist. People will literally leave the state to move but they'll fly back to Phoenix to get their teeth cleaned by my wife because she's that good. And she just has this special talent. And we were able to share that in Kenya. She shares that with their patients. People come in and they're just calmed by her. Let's call her the dental hygiene whisperer, right? So I'm great to have a partner that we're on the same page and we think alike. And I'm going to say this too. It doesn't mean it's always easy. What we've done, we've been in tears at times because it's just her and I. When you take 14 people to Kenya with over 600 items and you're flying halfway around the world and you're trying to navigate a third world country and you get through customs at 1:00 in the morning and they want $10,000 for a tax. And then you're negotiating the tax with the Kenya government, which is even more mind blowing than I'm able to negotiate. I got it down to 5,000. You're just going, oh my gosh, right? But we're there for a program. We're there to help. But that's the reality when you do those things. It's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding.
Jim, when you serve others, I think you said you could do it through, it could be something as simple as a $20 donation. It could be your time, effort, could be advice. Have you had people say, Jim, you gotta stop giving yourself away to everybody. People are going to take advantage of you.
Fortunately, I haven't. And maybe because I'm 6'2", 250 pounds, I come across as fairly dominant. I think my heart's good. I want to portray that, but I've never had that, George. And that's a good question because as much as I say about serving, it's hard for me initially to trust people. And that seems like it's crazy, but everybody people will take advantage of you if you let them. And I have my guard up. And it's today's world, you have to be aware of what's out there. So you pick and choose, right? And I think when it comes to service, it needs to be what you're passionate about. Don't just serve to say I served. It's not a checkbox. Hey, I served today. And I think that's probably, for many years, we served out of, a lot of things we wanted to and we felt called to, but there's sometimes you just serve because you feel like you need to, right? I need to serve. I need to support this person just because that's the right thing to do. And I think that's admirable. But the other thing is, you don't really get to that X level of serving until you find that passion. That passion could be working at the animal shelter. People love animals, or walking dogs for the elderly. You might have a passion for that. That's a great way to serve, right? And it can be, but if you don't have that passion, then serving becomes a chore. And when it's a chore, then it's not your heart that's serving. You're serving because you feel like obligated to serve. Once you find that passion, like we found in Kenya, again, the place we never wanted to go, it's amazing what transpires. And then when you start taking that and elevating, using your servant's heart to elevate your business, it's so rewarding. I was sitting at a function with a gentleman, and I was telling him my story. It was him and his wife and Jody and I, and I started telling my story, and he goes, "You know what? We had a business for many years, and then we started going to church. And this is a story about church, but he parlayed it to. Then we started really giving to church." And donating our funds because that's where we wanted to do it. And he says, "Jim, it's amazing how our business took off." And, that's an example. If you're religious or not, that's not the point. The point is they found a passion and they started serving. And then their regard, it was the church. And their business, he said, we just started growing exponentially. And it's just those type of stories which just solidify and show you what happens when you start serving and giving back. Because every time I touch somebody's life, every time that I can help them and raise them up through my act of service, I'm hoping they'll pass that on to the next person. And that's setting an example of what it means to serve. And if I could tell you another quick story, I had a gentleman that I do a lot of referral network calls because that's how I get my business through referrals, right? And so this young guy was just started a company, And we met and we talked, and he just started as a sales rep, and it was an HR type of company, services. And he just started there. It was really his first thing in sales. He'd been in the operations side. And about 4 weeks later, calls me and says, Jim, can I get on a call with you? Sure, because I had offered him, if you ever have a question or need help, call me. And so we set up a Zoom call. I spent 30 minutes with him, and I dissected what his issue was, because he could get the first appointment, but when nobody was showing up for a second appointment to have the appointment to talk about the business. And so we talked about it. I tweaked a few things the way he was saying it. And I pinged him 2 weeks later. I said, how's it going? He goes, I've made 3 sales and I got 2 more appointments next week. 3 months later, he said, I made the president's team. I'm going to be going on the trip this next year. Wow. Now that was, to me, that made me smile ear to ear. That's what the reward you get tenfold, because here's a young salesperson that's learning. I was able to help him be successful. Now he is able to feed his family better, help the business grow. That's what it's all about. So it's once again, I go back to, you don't have to monetize, you serve and you give, and guess what? It'll come back. I'm committed to that, and I know it works.
Jim, I'm going to come back to the money thing side again. And here's my question. When you serve and you help others, you said it comes back, and you gave that one example of the couple who gave to their church and then their business took off after. Now, do you think that was because the others they help did things that sent customers or business to this business? Or do you think it was because the people who served therefore felt better about themselves and performed better in their business because of that?
I think it's the latter. I think it's because you take on a different persona when you put yourself out there. Okay, what's the world all about? I want to sell you something. I've got this. As a solopreneur, you don't know how many emails I get on a daily basis or LinkedIn. Hey, we can get 5,000 leads for you, and you're going to close 1,600 customers by Tuesday. Trust us. It's only $500 a month. There's no guarantees, but we know it works. And there's some of those businesses where I have seen it all. All they want to do is take, because they need to grow their business, right? When you flip that and say, this is how I can help you, this is how I can serve you, discover what their pains is, and that's basically sales, and you look at ways you can help your customers and try to, instead of selling to your customers, they all of a sudden build trust. And they go, I'll pay more because I trust you. And it's amazing what happens is, now you need to give a fair price. You don't go out and astronomically. But the other thing I think that comes with this whole serving thing and this trust issue, which is part of it, is being vulnerable, George. You need to be vulnerable to who you are. They need to see who you are, your character, what kind of person you are. When they see that, they'll embrace that. And I think that's the same way with your employees, when your customers. If you put this barrier up and it's all about, look how great I am, and look what I can do for you, that's not the direction we need to go. It's, this is me. Let me see how I can help you and work with you. And let's see if we can come together and then grow this together. And when you take that attitude, because it's a servant's attitude, it can be very, very transformational for both of us, for everybody. One thing I will say is, there's been books written on the servant's leadership, on servant's heart. What I'm talking about isn't anything new. What I'm trying to stress with people is embrace it and be intentional. We talk about it, but a lot of people don't take it to that next level and actually act on it, because life takes over. This happens, you get an illness. There's so many things that makes life difficult. And so when you have that whole feeling of what's important in life, and when you get that set, it really makes a difference. I am I will say blessed now that I work for myself. I'm having the most fun I've ever had in my life. I'm probably working the hardest I've ever worked in my life. So anybody that's listening to this that has their own business, you guys know, and I value each one of you because it's hard. In corporate America, there might be 50, 400, 50,000 employees behind you. You can hide or you can be stressed out to the max very, very easily. When it's just you, there's only one person. And but it is so rewarding, and it's fun. I'd love to say that word fun because it's a lot of fun.
Jim, you mentioned that you offer to people if they have they want to have a talk with you about their sales, just give you a call. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Email is the best way to get a hold of me, or you can call me. I'll give you my phone number. It's 623-451-1080. Or my email is jhardwick@salesacceleration.com. And that's acceleration with an X, not an E. And that's the tricky part. But I'm on LinkedIn, and anybody that wants to talk or wants to learn more about Kenya, let's talk, because that's how. And the other thing is, there's a whole group of people that are fractional people, and we all help each other. And the whole referral networking piece is vital for each of our success. And so I'd love to share ideas, help you. And if there's a solopreneur that's struggling with sales, just call me. Guess what? It's free.
And you can find that contact information in the description below. Jim, before we wrap up, if you could sit down with a business leader, team leader, and you could offer them 1, 2, or 3 pieces of advice about actually doing the serving in a way that is not threatening to them, what might be that 1, 2, or 3 pieces of advice?
I would say be real, be vulnerable with your employees. Build trust. When you can gain that trust and the employees know that you're there to help them be successful, and they sincerely feel that, your business is going to take off. It's just taking that extra 2 minutes sometimes just to praise somebody when they've done a good job with recognition and you've acknowledged them. I've seen it a lot where, and this is not necessarily the case in small business owners, but for large corporations, where when the CEO walks in, the president of the company walks in, you can tell a joke and it might not be funny, but everybody laughs, right? Because that's the right thing to do. The important thing for those folks is get down on the level of your employees and understand what their issues are. Don't surround yourself with all the yes men. Be real, be out in the field, talk to your customers. It's your customers that are buying from you. If they're not buying from you, you better darn well figure out why, because ultimately it's your responsibility. So it's not hard, but people make it hard. It's that trust, it's that vulnerability, and then lead with passion and lead with that servant's heart. You won't fail.
Valuable advice. My guest today is Jim Hardwick, reminding you that when you serve, it comes back tenfold. If you like what you heard, remember to like, comment, and share this podcast. Come back every week for more practical insights to help you convey your intended message. I'm your host, George Torok.